Welcome to Raised on D&D podcast. Each month, Raised on D&D brings you inspirational interviews with tips and strategies to enrich your family's gaming experience. Your host for Raised on D&D has been a game master for 30 years and father to 3 gamers. Here is Nick Cardarelli.
Welcome back, gamers. I'm your host, Nick Cardarelli, and this is Raised on D&D. My next guest is from Henderson, North Carolina. He's the founder of Caps Games that published 33 games and modules. He's currently finishing his next RPG book called PAX, World of Heroes and Legends, coming soon to Kickstarter. Please welcome John Caps. Hi, John.
Hi, how you doing?
Real good. Thanks for being on the show today. How long have you been a fan of tabletop role-playing games?
Since 1973. Melee, we had Fantasy Game, and then we went into Dungeons and Dragons.
Amazing. So how old were you when you started gaming?
Let's see, that was 73. 47. I was 26. I'm sorry, 26. I was 26 years old.
Okay. You actually started your own game company, and that was back in 91. Is that right?
1990 is correct.
John, what inspired you to start making your own games?
I've always had a fascination with games anyway, especially with role-playing games. And I wanted to try myself to do something. I had a lot of encouragement from the people around me, and they said, well, you ought to do it. And so we had tried some things experimentally and playing. I got positive feedback from it, so I said, okay, I'll take it to the next level. So then I wrote the rules for it. Then we published it. Then we went on the road, and we went on the road, trust me. We went all the way from Fort Myers, Florida, all the way up to Pennsylvania, going to conventions, we had a great time. And in 1990 or 91, we were selected as the #1 role-playing game and also live-action role-playing game at JaxCon in Jacksonville, Florida. So
wow,
we came away with a very positive, feeling about that. But as you know, it takes money to, run a company. We actually opened in Baltimore. We opened in Baltimore, and I think that's what encouraged me so much, is because I had such a wonderful response when we went to the Gamers Convention. They held a Gamers Convention that year, and we went and had such a great response. So I said, well, this might work. So we went on the road. And so every time we found a convention somewhere on the East Coast, we were traveling. And I had a good friend who did a lot of inputting for me, and he was my travel companion, and we traveled. But as I mentioned, it takes a lot of money to keep this going, because I kept producing games. I kept producing. I kept writing. I kept, but the real problem is it's all about timing. Nick, I don't know if you know about it. It's all about timing.
Always.
In 1990, do you know what came out in 1990?
No.
Okay, it's a game called Magic: The Gathering.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
The card
All
game.
right. So, and so it was really difficult to compete with Magic: The Gathering, and what's really crazy is that my role-playing game is a game played with cards.
Yeah.
Regular deck of cards, okay? And it was really, really crazy, but we went to conventions, and I would see these cards, these Magic the Gathering cards, and I even got a chance to meet some of the actual artists who who drew these cards.
Wow.
And I was thinking, my gosh, if I had the money, I would hire them to make cards for my game. But of course, it takes money, so couldn't do it. So we carried on for as long as we could, and finally, about '94, I said, we've gone out there, we've made ourselves known. I met some good people, met some real good people. I met a very loyal merchant who, at every convention, he would come over and he would just buy handfuls of my stuff to sell. And he said he had customers that really wanted my stuff, so that made me feel really good.
Yes.
So, but he was very loyal. I miss him because he was a nice guy.
Well, John, you said timing is everything, and the winds have turned back to tabletop role-playing games. They're more popular than ever. They really have. You've decided to come out of retirement and you got this new game, PAX World of Heroes and Legends, on deck, ready to go, bringing it back. John, a lot of people know your games. They know Skill Master and Crystal Wars and things like that. So, and using the regular deck of cards with the RPG, is PAX going to be along those lines? Are fans of Skill Master going to be excited for PAX?
I'm using dice.
Okay.
I'm using dice in this. I come back to dice. I'm using D6 dice. I'm using D6 dice in the game. Okay. Now, anywhere from 3 or 4 D6 on certain things that you use.
Okay.
It's combining. This is like the 4th rewrite of PAX, by the way. I started it. I wrote a copy. I gave it to my son. Okay. And after I gave it to him, I went back through and I just tore it all apart. I said, this is not going to work. I said, I don't even like this. So I said, okay, I'm going to rewrite it again. So I rewrote it again. Okay. I looked at it again. I said, there's too much math. I had, it was a game full of math. I said, nobody wants to sit there and do the math and do all this. So I threw that away. So I started again. So, it's just been one of those rewrite processes. It's a chore of love. I love doing it. I love trying to figure it out. And I think I'm on, and hopefully by August, maybe I can send it to Kickstarter and maybe they can help me with it. Okay. So
fantastic.
That's where I am.
Well, John, you mentioned your son. Now, how many children do you have, John?
I have 3.
Okay.
I have 3. And all 3 of them have role played with me.
How old were they when you first introduced them to tabletop role-playing games?
8 and 6 were my 2 girls. I got my son, Johnny, he came on board. I got him playing when he was about 6 too. He was about 6. Johnny was a type, he was always kill daddy. You play Car Wars. Are you familiar with the game Car Wars?
Yes.
Okay. Well, in any game, the first option, who you going to shoot? I'm going to shoot daddy. So we had a blast doing that. But he grew up and he's quite a good DM now in his own right. I'm very proud of him. He runs a game on Twitch. I watched it last night for the 2nd time. He does an excellent job. I'm very proud of what he's done and what he's learned as a DM. He always used to have the tag called his monsters, his big monster at the end, the guy that was supposed to be the toughest to kill. He called them Johnny Monsters because it didn't matter how tough they were, they would be killed on the first attack. They would be killed. It didn't matter. They were near gods, and somehow somebody would roll 20, 20, 20 and just take him right out. So they all became known as Johnny Monsters. But Beth and Kathy played a thief. She was a little thief, which really suited her personality. She's just, and Beth, very, very serious, very, very, she played, their favorite game, by the way, was titled, Dragon Quest. There it is. Dragon Quest. She wanted to be an earth mage. And so she was an earth mage, okay? And she had this powerful spell called Hands of Earth. But you only had like of course it was run on percentiles. You had like a 10% chance of casting it, okay? And I mean, so, okay, if you, Daddy, I'm casting Hands of Earth. All right, baby, whatever you want to do. So she'd roll, and she would roll at a 6 or 7 or 8. The hands would pop up, capture the bad guys, and the guys, now I played with former students, they were all be like, 16, 17 years old, and they would just stare at her. How did you do that? We try to roll our spells, we keep rolling. And it was a lot of fun because she was a serious Hands of Earth mage. But we had a great time doing it. And I think what they learned from role playing, I hope what they learned is that it should be fun. That role playing should be fun. It should be imaginative. And of course, my eldest Earth Mage daughter is an author now in her own right. She's written a number of books and had them published. So she is an author, and hopefully the role playing inspired her a little bit in her writing career.
John, do you have any grandchildren now?
I do have 5.
5 grandchildren.
And they all play.
And they all role play.
Right. All play with me. They come to my house. They don't have much of a chance. They come to my house, they're going to play role playing games. But
how old are those grandbabies?
Well, I got one 16, 14, 12, 11, and 10.
Wow, that's the great ages for getting together to game.
Oh, it is. It's marvelous. It's marvelous.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
So they're gaming with their siblings and their cousin. They've got grandpa as the DM. That's great.
Yeah, that's exactly
really
right.
good.
And of course, I got one, my 11-year-old. He's trying to write his own game. He's trying to write his game because, I play my game with him, and so he wants to write his own game. And he works very hard. I mean, he really works very hard. He brings me his stuff. He brings me his, said, how about this monster? I said, that's fine, buddy. If you want to use it, we'll see if we can work it out. So we play test what he wants to do, and we have a good time. And
that is terrific.
It is. It really is.
That's like my 12-year-old. He's so excited to write his own setting. He's written a module already, and he's gearing up for number 2. And it's just great to be able to see their creative process and see that, that positive impact that the tabletop has had on them. That's fantastic.
Yes, it really is.
You have generations of gamers in your family. Kind of were at a late start, 26 years old when you started tabletop role-playing games, but everybody else in the house has now kind of grown up on it. I think that what a lot of folks don't realize is the time spent around the table. The children forever are going to remember and be inspired by those hours spent at grandpa's or with dad at the table playing the game. And that's what we're hoping our listeners hear in our stories and then emulate at home with their own. So we're excited about PAX World of Heroes and Legends. Is it going to be sword and sorcery? Is it going to be a fantasy setting? What are we looking at?
Fantasy setting, sword and sorcery. I've got basically what's holding me up right now is I got, like I said, I've rewritten it like so many times. I've got to go back through the copy I wrote last time and go back and make the changes. The player's book is like 84 pages long.
Okay.
So I've been going through that, and it's taken me a while to get through making all the little changes to be consistent throughout the book. So once I get that done, then I've got to go to my monster manual, which I had already written. I had already written the monster manual now, which was another 84 pages, okay, of monsters, all right? I've got to go through that, change everything, because what I had in that will not work for this. So I've got to go back and change all that. So it's going to be It's going to labor of love, but I do love it. The guys that I play with, I've been playing Pathfinder. I don't know if you know about Pathfinder,
Yeah,
second edition.
my family loves Pathfinder. Yep.
Well, great. The guys are playing Pathfinder with me now, and that's fantastic. These are guys that have played with me. Well, I said 30 years. It's more like 35, close to 40 years.
Yeah.
Because we started in high school. I sponsored a role-playing club, a tabletop club in high school. And of course, I had to get it cleared. They had to get permission from the parents and all that. I mean, but we had such a good time.
So you were a teacher at the school, and
Right.
and you started what were you using back then? Was it a Dungeons and Dragons club?
Dungeons and Dragons, yes.
Okay.
Dungeons and Dragons, yeah.
Okay.
And of course, at that time, you got all the religious warriors who were concerned that, we were demon worshiping. And so I even had to respond, had a reporter call me and ask me about that, had me questions. And I assured her that no, there was no demon worship going on here. Just the opposite. If we stumbled upon one, we smote it. So, and these kids have in fact, in high school, we would go to conventions in Virginia, and just Mac and Chris, we went to Virginia to a Grovicon convention, and we stumbled upon this DM. Of course, now by this time, D&D second edition, third edition had come out. Okay. Now, the DM says, I don't care what characters you play. He says, you could play from any of the three groups. And Mac, Chris, and I said, okay. We went to the first D&D books. We chose 2 dwarf brothers and an elf. And of course, we came into town, and the first thing we did was take over the guild. We took over the Thieves Guild. They were paying us. That guy lost control of that game real quick because we took it over. We had such fun. And so these guys have traveled with me. They've gone with me. They play games with me. And it's just wonderful because they still do. They still come to my house now and play with me. And they were supposed to come play just as the outbreak hit. And I said, no, we're not taking any chances. I don't want anybody to get sick. When it gets over with, we'll pick back up and start all over again. So we're waiting for that.
That is incredible. So your game group is all former students. They still call you Mr. Caps?
No, I finally got them to call me John. They at times they want to call me Mr. Caps. I'm like, no, I'm John. Cut it out. I've known you all my life. I've known you all your life, so come on then. You can call me John then.
What is your advice? A lot of the parents who listen to our show, they are new to role-playing games. So like you and I grew up playing tabletop, but they are literally jumping into it now to have something to do with their children, not just during the quarantine, but now they're seeing the value in gathering everyone around the table, putting the phones and the tablets away, and rolling some dice and telling stories. John, could you give those parents that are new to gaming some advice on how to, when you had your 6 and 8-year-olds, how you were able to get them to the table and how you started them out and got them to fall in love with tabletop role-playing games?
Yes. First of all, when I started with the children, I made sure that nothing was too scary. Let them enjoy success. If they have success and have fun, they'll want to keep playing. So that's what we did. We made sure they had success. And of course, Beth was so lucky, she kept rolling that 10%. So that kind of made a whole lot of fun. But so just keep it very simple for them. Don't overload them with rules. If they want to learn a rule, by all means, teach it to them.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, don't overpower them with rules. Because, you know, in all these books, you can get very lost very quickly. So do just, like I said, take it very slow, very simple, nothing scary. When our games became more intense once I realized that Beth and Kathy could handle the situations.
Mm-hmm.
And once I had realized that, then we could play more normal, more intense games. And so that's my suggestion. Start out slow, make sure they have success, make sure they have fun, nothing scary. After you do that, you'll have them hooked.
That's great, John. Thank you. That's some really good advice. Kids let you know when they're ready for the next level, because my youngest was like, "We never die in your games, Dad. It's not fun." Right? I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "It's because you guys are so good." They're like, "No, no, no. You're pulling your punches." They were like, "You roll in front of the screen for this game." So they let you know. They let you know when they're ready for it.
Yes, they do. They do.
John, I can't thank you enough for coming out and being on the show today. Thank you so much. We're so excited about PAX and the Kickstarter, and we're going to let all our listeners know when that reaches Kickstarter that they can jump in and get right in on the ground floor on that. So thank you so much, John. I can't tell you how much this meant to us.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's been an excellent presentation, and I have enjoyed it greatly. Thank you, Nick. Do appreciate it.